2024. I don't know if anybody can hear me. I'm not listening to myself yet, but let's see. My mic is on.
You want me scared, you want me weak, you want me brain dead and asleep. You want us trapped while you all laugh behind the scenes. You want us sick, you think we're dumb. You want us blind and you want us drugged. You want us poor while you get more of everything. But you don't get to tell me what to think and what to do. No, you don't get to tell me what is true. 'Cause you're just liars, cheats and crooks. Change the rules and you burn the books. And so I don't believe a single word you say. You're all liars, fakes and cons. Want you out and we want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away. You want us tricked, you want us numb. You want us scared and you want us stung. You want us shot and you want us barred in every way. You want our minds, you want our time. You want us framed up in your crime. I hope you know that it's time to go and we're taking names. 'Cause you don't get to tell us what to think and what to do. No, you don't get to tell us what is true. 'Cause you're just liars, cheats and crooks. Change the rules and you burn the books. And so we don't believe a single word you say. You're all liars, fakes and cons. Want you out and we want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away. 'Cause we see la 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 all your lies. La 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 all your lies. You don't get to tell us what.
We're going to cut the intro music a little early just because I was running late. And I know that the mic is working now. So. In case you haven't been able to surmise, you don't get to tell me what to think or what to do. Why? Because you're all liars, cheats, and crooks. All right, the song is amazing, people. I know that the audio is working now that I've double-checked. I was just on with Charlie Kirk, and it would have been funny if the audio isn't working between Charlie Kirk and now. This song, I'm asymmetrical here, and I don't like this. You want to know why this is here? See if this thing's still working. Yes. If the microphone's not working, I can... Okay, that's terrible. I don't know why that's there, so I'll just put that on the ground. Liars, Cheats, and Crooks by, you can take it, 5 Times August. It's available on Apple Tunes. Out. And close the door. Get out. Close the door. Good afternoon, everybody. Not running late. Today was a bit of a different schedule because Charlie Kirk wanted to have me on to talk about what's going on in Canada, which we are going to be talking about today. Yesterday, people thought the Justin Trudeau regime was going to crumble and there would be elections triggered yesterday and there'd be voting today and tomorrow would be a brighter future in Canada under the so-called conservative government. Not yet there. We will get there. Donald Trump suing Ann Seltzer. I mean, have no mercy. Have no mercy and make them live by their own rules. Trump is suing Ann Seltzer and the Des Moines Register for that inexplicable election interference poll that Ann Seltzer put out showing Iowa had swung 12 points for what's her face, Kamala Harris, and some other good stuff. Let me make sure. So we are live across all platforms. Actually, I remember what I have to do because I was so late getting this stream started that when I used Studio, I forgot to add YouTube. And now I need to go there and I need to click a button because I don't want to get into trouble in terms of, hold on. I'm going to go here. I got to go make sure to check the box because they will not let us make mistakes. This stream contains a paid promotion. They will not let us make mistakes and then they expect us to forgive them for theirs, which I probably would because I'm a bit of a sissy, if we're being honest. You all know that. Good afternoon. That is it. We're good to go. We are putting in the link in CommyTube so that everybody who wants to come over and watch it on Free Speech Rumble can and should. And I'm going to make sure here. Link to crumble. And my brother, by the way, I believe might be popping on at some point during the stream. So keep an eye out for Daniel Freiheit. Viva, I know that you paid money for the rights to use that song, but it's ear bleeding. Jay Louie, first of all, here, let me bring it up. I didn't pay money for the rights. I paid so that I could use it with a clean conscience. Because some people would say, hey, dude, can I play your music on my show and it'll give you exposure and that'll be the... No, I love that song. I love 5 Times August. It's not ear bleeding. If you don't like it, maybe a Q-tip your ear. I love that song. And I love 5 Times August in a platonic, freedom-loving, constitutional sense. All right, now that I've checked off the box, people, and speaking of the Constitution, and speaking of loving things, coffee, 1775. And speaking of supporting freedom and freedom-loving companies, people, it is time to make mornings great again. If your coffee tastes like it's been passed through the same filter as the mainstream media headlines, you deserve better. Enter 1775 Vitality Coffee, not just coffee, brain fuel for anyone who refuses to settle for mediocrity. I refuse to settle for mediocrity. Lion's Mane, Reishi, sharpen your focus faster than a Twitter argument with a blue check mark. Cordyceps, power your energy without the crash, and the hand-picked Bolivian beans, flavor so bold it makes corporate coffee look like decaf at a Biden fundraiser. Weak, pointless, and pardoning criminals. We're going to get into that too today. Commuting the sentences of criminals. No fillers, no woke nonsense, just coffee that is unapologetically rebellious, just like you and just like me. Proudly backed by Rumble, the platform that stands for freedom. Head over to 1775coffee.com. Use promo code VIVA for 15% off. Make mornings great again and drink coffee that is as bold and uncompromising and demanding of quality as all of us out there. Join the fight for freedom on Rumble and 1775 coffee. We're going to start with the Biden corruption, I guess. The biggest day commutation pardoning of they call it clemency. Such a beautiful word. Who could disagree with clemency? And I tend to be someone who believes in forgiving and forgetting. But the biggest day of clemency in modern history, I don't know if it's the biggest ever. Biden has pardoned thus far. Who has he pardoned thus far? Apparently there was somebody, not that it matters. I think he was an Asian dude. And I think it does matter only not because he's Asian, but because there's going to be questions about affiliation to the Chinese Communist Party. He pardoned or commuted the sentence of some Asian guy who had a lot of CP on his computer. And the CP does not stand for Communist Party material. It stands for child pornography, people. Pardons a pedophile. He pardoned, who were the other one there? The judge out of Pennsylvania who locked up children. And today, or at least part of this pardon, a woman, I've never heard of her, but it's outrageous. Illinois community outraged after Biden commutes sentence of fraudster behind $53 million embezzlement scandal. Leniency for Rita Crundwell, 71, leaves rural town in disbelief. Remember, the leniency for the judge there, what was his name? Conahan, who locked up children so that he could line his pockets by getting kickbacks from the juvenile detention centers that he had a hand in building, and that he got financed basically to keep occupied with juveniles that he would send to that facility so the state would pay for rent and it would be a very profitable enterprise at the expense of children. Joe Biden's done it again. He added a woman behind the largest municipal embezzlement scandal in U.S. history to the list of clemency controversies outraging a small town in Illinois. Former Dixon, Illinois comptroller Rita Crundwell, 71. I know my brother's in the backdrop and he might not want to hear me swear. How the fuck does someone steal $54 million? I don't know anything about this case. Does it happen all at once? Or does it happen slowly over time like the pennies scandal in Office Space? Listen to this. She stole $54 million over 22 years and pled guilty to the crime in 2012. Had her sentence commuted as part of a broader commutation last Thursday, making her one of 1,500, the most ever granted by a president in a single day. And I'm not going to go back and harp on those jackasses who said Biden's only pardoned his son. Trump pardoned 166 people. Egypt. Bleh. Local officials and some state lawmakers aren't happy to see her off getting scot-free. I'll say the only steelman is she didn't get off scot-free. It sounds like she was in jail for a decade. Rita's crime absolutely shocks the conscience. At her sentencing in February 2013, the judge said that a significant prison sentence was essential to reestablish public trust and confidence so that we've seen So what we've seen here over the last week is just unbelievably and really complex betrayal of the federal criminal justice system. Dixon city manager, he said on Tuesday. Oh. Okay, there's a lot of jokes in here. Biden's blanket move also commuted the prison sentence of a corrupt judge, and we talked about that one. So it's good. He's got his pardons, commutations, and forgiveness for people affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party and the other CP, child pornography, judges who locked up children. And I try to look for any like steelman reason. What would explain this away? Was she treated unfairly? Was it a politicized prosecution? Was it a politicized sentence? If I'll steelman this, she's just an old lady. She might be sick. I mean, she'll die in prison by the sounds of it. But apparently she doesn't deserve to die in prison, whereas a great many other people, All right. Well, that's it. But I do want to go look back and see what the deal is on that case, because I don't know. I mean, I knew of the Cash for Kids case a little bit better, but I'm totally unfamiliar with that. But it's part and parcel Biden burning down the system on his way out. Daniel, do you want to pop your face in? Oh, looky! Ooh,
there we go,
dude.
I'm at a secret off-site location. Don't ask.
No, your hair looks like silver flashes. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful beard makes your job look good. Oh, yeah, Dan. Okay. This is my brother. Everybody, I don't know if anybody doesn't know. He's actually my brother from our same mother. Daniel Freiheit, Lion Law. Dan, okay, we're going to talk Canadian stuff for a second, but what's going on?
Yeah, those pardons are interesting. I guess we don't have the similar kind of political parachute escape system for Canadian convicts, do we? We have a pardon system and clemency stuff.
Yes. Well, Dureau says, can there still be a civil case with the pardon? Yeah, the pardon is for federal crimes. It's not for civil, and it's not for state. So I think in the case of the judge, he still has to pay back $200 million. So he'll be bankrupt and living.
Right. One of my questions was if someone's pardoned, right, in this or in the States, can they still plead the fifth? Did you talk about this?
So we've talked about it. The rule is at the federal level they can no longer plead the fifth, but that there's a way to circumvent it by saying, well, if I'm susceptible to state charges. Right. Then I'm still exposed, so I can plead the fifth, even if it's wrong, because we expect Hunter Biden to be pleading the fifth.
Who's adopted, man? Your comments are so mean.
No, he wasn't adopted. He's the mailman's son. Like, you look at my oldest brother, and you'll undoubtedly know that he and I are brothers. You look at my second oldest brother; he's a little skinnier than me now, but no question. You look at my sister compared to my dad, no question. You look at Dan compared to the mailman because they were Greek mailmen back in the day. People are going to think I'm
glad there's a private channel, private stream, right?
Hold on. For anybody who's meeting you for the first time, tell them who you are.
Corporate commercial lawyer turned kind of, well, I'm still doing the corporate commercial thing, but the alarm bells went off early 2022 when I started getting strange calls from people getting fired for remote workers who didn't get the job. So that's when I realized, I mean, in addition to everything that happened in 2021 and 2020, that's when I kind of something was amiss, because I don't think mandates really came into effect until early 2022. Everything else was just kind of.
My brother has joined the dark side, people. It's been a wonder. Look, my transition, ideological, political transition occurred a little earlier, but it was great to see one. I won't get into too much family stuff, but some members of the family have come around. But Dan is definitely. He was a little later, but not too late, and now he's fighting the good fight for people who are vaccine injured, seeking claims.
That fight, that's going to be the legal. That's more of a political fight at this point, is what I've come to conclude. A lot of these fights are political, and I started realizing that early on. Like the legal system was kind of too slow. Lawfare was just, and I'm in Ontario for the record.
Yeah, my brother is still a practicing attorney in Toronto, and he stayed in the armpit of Canada, and I have gone to the.
And now hiding in the bunker.
Dude, it's beautiful. I walk in the morning. It's so hot. It's already back to being too hot now in December, and then I'm like thinking we're going to be up in commie Canada in a week, and it's going to be back to the miserable 4 hours of sunlight a day.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to what you're coming back to. See what form of government we have at that point.
Okay, so right? We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff, and just the most obvious of the day. Were you glued to CPAC yesterday?
I wasn't. I had it going on in the background. I thought there was going to be an announcement at 2 p.m., but no, I was on CBC. I prefer state-funded media.
Well, no, CPAC is still state-funded, I think.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I don't know. It's a conservative political. I don't actually know. Hold on. But let me bring this up. Well, okay. The context for anybody who doesn't know what's going on in Canada, Trudeau has been wildly unpopular for a very, very long time. He started, when I say literally buying votes, or at least trying to, it's so literal and so transparently in your face. He recently announced, Dan, in Quebec, for those Americans watching, we have GST. In Quebec, we have QST, Quebec sales tax. In the rest of Canada, is it called the HST, the harmonized sales tax? And that means both provincial and federal tax on goods and services that you purchase.
Right.
Okay. And depending on the province, it's more or less. I think in Quebec, I think it's 9.5%, and the federal sales tax is 6.5%. Does that make sense? No, 5.5%. Well, it gets to about 15% in Quebec. Between this provincial and so that is to say, everybody understand this. You make your money. If you make $100,000 a year, you're netting, say, 55,000, maybe 58,000. Everything you buy after having paid your 40 some odd percent income tax, you're paying 15% tax on everything you buy. Pretty much, you pay property tax, you pay license fees for your passport license. You're lucky if you're left with 30 cents on your dollar if for every dollar you make. And so Justin Trudeau recently announced that they would, for 2 months starting January, suspend the sales tax on groceries and foods.
Oh gosh, yeah, certain groceries, certain food, and certain toys. The list, there's like a whole. I couldn't even.
Now, but the irony, it's 9.975%. It's obscene.
Well, Americans have sales tax too, don't they?
In Florida, I think it's like, I want to say 5%, maybe 4.5%. Like we got on a $20 breakfast, it was like it's $2, so maybe it's less. Interesting. And there's no state income tax in Florida. Did you know that, Daniel?
No, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, but then you realize what you're paying the feds, and you realize what the feds are laundering over to Ukraine, and I can really pretty much put a dollar figure on what I've been compelled to finance by way of Ukraine wars, but when in terms of the tax on, or the suspension of the tax on foods, there was already no GST and QST on food items, correct?
The various items already did not have HST or GST on them, so I'm not exactly sure which items. The whole point is it's a total and utter distraction. You listen. There's a guy on Twitter who does he's like part of an association for the restaurant and food business. Or the retail, I forget. Anyhow, the point is, this tax is such an administrative pain in the butt for retailers to reprogram their cash machines and have to resubmit it's great for the accountants and lawyers or whatever, but like for the mom and pop shops that are trying to operate like this more administrative nonsense, it's almost like it's a total distraction intended to clutter our thinking, because it's crazy.
In Florida, it's 6%, but no, and apparently this is going to get into allegedly what might have been the at the root of Chrystia Freeland resigning. Apparently, it was going to cost the budget, or it was going to cost the government like $1.6 billion, and they were already going to be in a. Have you been following the budget issue? Like they were going to be $40 billion in deficit. Oh,
they were 62 or something.
Yeah, they were. So okay, I'm presuming everybody knows what's going on in Canada. Justin Trudeau's been wildly unpopular, the most unpopular prime minister I think ever. He's at like 20 some odd percent approval rating, down from 60 when he first got elected in 2015. There's been talk for him to resign, step down, allow a new leader to come up. People were hypothesizing that it might be Chrystia Freeland. So he's been wildly unpopular. They need to call an election in 2025 legislatively, unless there's an act of war or what's the other one? Insurrection or martial law. They have to hold elections in 2025, not to jinx anything. And so there's been a massive turmoil in terms of calls for him to step down, et cetera. In order to buy the vote, in order to sway low information, smooth brain voters, he's going to put a pause on GST and QST or HST on items that by and large didn't have it. So they can only harp on diapers for some reason. And there was a second attempt to buy the votes. Oh, yes. Every family making under $150,000 a year is going to get a check for $250. Did you hear that, Dan?
I heard.
Are you going to get the check? Can you imagine? You make 150. Let's just say you make $148,000. You're paying about $65,000. It might even more because it's a sliding scale in terms of the taxes you pay. You're paying $65,000 in taxes. They give you 250 effing dollars, which might cover a parking ticket in Toronto. Sorry, so that's him trying to buy the
Better
votes.
than a hole in the head, I guess. And by the way, the provinces did that too. A couple of provinces jumped on with that.
Yeah, Quebec, I think did it the last time they.
They're just shuffling it. Even the carbon tax is the worst because it's like not even doing what it's supposed to do, which is like invested in clean tech. Really, they're just using the money to like put it into 8 of 10 Canadian.
Well, explain the carbon tax for those who don't know, because Pierre Poilievre is campaigning off Axe the carbon tax. What is the carbon tax?
Carbon tax is a tax on the total carbon footprint emissions of various products and things. So you're going to pay a lot of carbon tax on your natural gas bill and I guess on gasoline too. And yeah, I guess the idea is to reduce consumption of those items, right? Save the planet. And the joke is always like, there's no clear cause and effect between the tax and what it's intended to do. Maybe if the money is used to invest in more clean tech, but there's no accountability for the money. So it's almost it almost seems like it's a slush fund that's being totally abused.
At best, that's what it is. You know what percentage of global emissions Canada contributes to?
It was like under 3% or something.
It's under 2%. I think it was 1.25%. Global emissions from Canada, I think it was 1.25%. 1.5% of total global CO2 emissions, and the mother effer is crippling Canada and Canadians. But it's giving a tax back to them. You get your carbon tax. So he's an idiot, and he's burning the country to the ground. They need to hold elections in 2025, but they're pushing it off through this unholy alliance, which in theory no longer exists, except the NDP hasn't called a new election because Jagmeet Singh needs his pension, and I think he has to get it like I think it's July 2025. He's eligible for his pension, so they can call elections after. And so what happened yesterday is Christian Freeland is supposed to table the budget, and it's going to exceed their deficit it exceeds it by 50%, but by 20 some odd billion. And so she resigns 2 hours before they're supposed to table the budget, which is going to show that the projected budget is going to, throw Canada into an even wilder deficit. She resigns. There's a little bit of some of the details after this I'm not totally up to speed with, but someone else who was supposed to replace her for that position legally didn't want to, so they were going to go to one of the Randys. Did you watch any of the debate, Dan?
No.
Did you hear that they were calling them the Randys?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then Ferguson, the Speaker of the House, comes out and says, rule of protocol is you don't call other parliamentarians by their first name. It's like, fuck you. I swear I would get my ass kicked out of there so fast. I can't call you by your first. I'm sorry, Your Highness. This is Parliament.
Parliamentary etiquette.
And so she resigns. Someone else doesn't take her place. And then there's a whole debate as to whether or not they just call elections now. Conservatives are pushing, but not too hard. NDP is pushing, but certainly fighting. And that's where it seems to have stopped.
The leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, future prime minister, most likely, he went through the list, like it was like 4. Apparently, nobody wanted this job because I guess people don't want to get thrown under the bus. Trudeau classic. So yeah, it was basically the only person he can get. LeBlanc
was his which is his best friend from childhood. Let me see if I can find the video. Let's see if this is the good one. There's so many. And by the way, you all know everybody knows the way I feel about the Conservatives and Pierre, but Pierre is good in some respects. And when he was grilling Trudeau on how much money has your family taken from the W? How much? I gladly provide you the papers. How much? How much money? How much of your? I mean, he's good. But the Conservatives are like, this is O'Toole's Conservative Party. They're not much better. Listen to this.
Not only does the incompetent finance minister not know the inflation target,
is this it?
She doesn't know that you lock in low rates when you have the chance. Remember, the Prime Minister was saying, don't worry, we can double the national debt because interest rates are
low. This is not the right one. This is old. I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, so the bottom line, he goes through all the people who didn't want the position because it's going to be a position where they're going to get destroyed in terms of defending this budget, which makes absolutely no sense, which will plunge Canada into Venezuela-type crippled economy.
Right. It's going to be painful. But I think the general numbers, I thought they did, 63 billion. But in terms of who's getting what and how that plays out, yeah, Don't know the details.
Let me see if in our locals community, if anybody has that link. This isn't O'Toole's Conservative Party, though, says Stephen Britton. No, it's Pierre Poilievre, and he's sort of like O'Toole. He's a little bit more conservative than O'Toole, but
There's another video I'm looking for where Christopher Freeman can't pronounce the budget, like she misses up. Did you remember that one? It's from a while ago.
I'll bring up the good one, the one that I know that is good from yesterday, which is I was watching this, and it's like watching the stereotype of a Latin American soap opera at 3 a.m. It's so cheap, corny, lame politics. Is this it? Here, listen to this. This one I know because I clipped it yesterday. This.
Mr. Speaker, just to underline the chaos we're faced with here, the finance minister resigned the day she was to present the fall budget, which was going to contain a massive deficit overrun. The job then went automatically to the industry minister, who immediately resigned, like on the spot, which then went down the line. And the next person in order was the famous two Randys. And they're not available to do the job either. We're now less than 2 hours away from the fall economic update. Why won't the Prime Minister have the courage to come in here, present it himself, and put it for a confidence vote tonight?
Bunch of buffoons.
No, I didn't think of that. That's cool.
Think of what?
Putting pressure on the Prime Minister to present himself and then put a confidence vote right on the spot. I like that. Sorry, I happen to have a thing for PP.
Wait, what did you just say?
I have a thing for Pierre Poilievre.
I have a thing for PP. Clip it, people running. My brother's in the golden showers. So what's happened today? Has there been there's been no development? They're not proroguing Parliament that we know of?
I haven't heard of that. But that'd be kind of cool if they did prorogue, because apparently all the bills die on the spot.
Yeah.
And there's a couple out there that are pissing off a lot of people, especially Bill 63, C63 there. With,
you have to. So I'll explain this to everybody as well. They're breaking for Christmas regardless. And now it's a recess for holidays. A recess doesn't start the parliamentary session from scratch. This is all new to me. I learned this when they had Brexit and they were proroguing Parliament in the context of that political turmoil. And I was like, what's proroguing Parliament? And I make a video about it. And then the comments are like, Viva, you idiot. You live in a parliamentary system. You don't know what proroguing Parliament is. So you can have a recess, which doesn't end the parliamentary session. It's a ministerial decision, prorogue Parliament, which means end the current parliamentary session. And then you take a bigger break, you reassess, you regroup, and then you call a new session. And everything starts from scratch. All of the bills that were left on the table are dead. This is how Bill C... I think it was Bill C-10 at the time, initially died on the vine. Then they start a new parliamentary session. They got to bring back the legislation, bring back the debates, and revive everything. So the discussion yesterday was whether or not they were going to either trigger a non-confidence vote and hold new elections earlier, which would screw Jugmeat and whoever else is looking for their pension, or prorogue Parliament. They have a longer break over Christmas and come back and start from scratch. What bills are currently... because there were a number. The Online Streaming Act passed. Which ones are currently pending that are meaningful for us?
The biggest one, I think, the biggest one that they're trying to sell is the Online Harms Act, which his Minister of Justice has been, doing a roadshow on for the past 4 or 5 months, heavy promoting this bill, which is the bill that basically sets up an appointed committee to kind of monitor online comments that can be considered hateful or whatever other,
This is the one I talked about this a lot. This is the one that added life imprisonment as a potential punishment for denying or advocating genocide.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the overview, but just make sure it's the Bill C-63, known as the Online Harms Act. And I said there's nothing in this bill that actually creates a law that doesn't already exist. Proposed Canadian law aiming to regulate online platforms by requiring them to actively remove harmful content like hate speech. Well, they already have that. Child exploitation, non-consensual image. Well, non-consensual intimate images. They mean revenge porn. That's going to be abused thoroughly. Essentially holding social media companies accountable for content shared on their platforms. It also establishes the Digital Safety Commission to enforce those regulations and support victims of online harm. So
the setting up of that commission is the biggest flag for those of us who have concerns about executive control of judicial features. Right?
Someone's drinking coffee. Who is it?
Yeah, that's what that is.
That's the Nespresso machine.
I'm gonna put that on mute. But yes.
Oh, don't with that. And by the way, it is the one that I remember talking about this at the time. The Online Harm Act states that any person who advocates for or promotes genocide, they need to put genocide in quotes as well, is, quote, liable to imprisonment for life. It defines lesser hate crimes as including online speech that is likely to foment detestation or vilification. This is, for those who are not aware, the term used in the Supreme Court to determine hate speech. That was the Supreme Court of not of the United States, of Canada. When they defined what is hate speech, they said this is their definition. So they've decided to codify it instead of override it on the basis of race, religion, gender, or other protected categories. It's communism.
Yeah, so that was the risk. In theory, the commission could rule that anyone who had misgendered someone in their historical feeds or any on social media could be considered some type of form of hate, and that account could be suspended. Like it's a disaster. So prorogue, if all these bills get killed on the floor, so to speak, there would be a silver lining to that. Interesting, by the way, is that Harper prorogued Parliament twice. I don't know if you. So the previous Prime Minister, Conservative, did the same trick when he was kind of getting pressured. And the second time is interesting. I was reading up on this, how the Governor General kind of didn't exactly comply with the request. She kind of dragged her feet on indulging in the prorogation at that time. So that was interesting. But
I'm trying to find the portion on Bill C-63, which also said that if you have access to delete what would otherwise be a contravening tweet post and you don't, and someone else reposts it after the implementation of the act, that would be considered republishing for the purposes of the act. And it was not to steal the credit, because it was Jordan Peterson and or Ezra Levant from Rebel News who highlighted that portion of the law. And it's I'll see if I can find it. It's actually the case. Like if you have access and delete it and you don't, and it gets republished, you're back in violation of the law. It's like not just thought crime, retroactive thought crime.
Yep. And you see it now, by the way, the way these tribunals are set up, and they can be politicized very readily. So this happened in a small town, Ontario, where the mayor apparently had a bank account garnished for $5,000.
Yep, for not celebrating Pride Month.
For not celebrating. Oh, no, I think it was specifically because he made a comment comparing the pride flag to those who are cis, or what do you call it? And the point was, it was a comment he made on the record that they didn't like, that got him dinged. But you can see now, I mean, it could very well get overturned on appeal to the Superior Court or the Court of Appeal. But that whole process, he's now just mired in these legal costs. This is lawfare in action.
Ontario mayor reportedly has bank account garnished after fined for refusing to celebrate Pride Month. Borderland Pride mocked the mayor on social media after reportedly garnishing his bank account. A mayor of a township of Ontario, Canada. Where is it? I mean, I know where it is, but so he had his bank account garnished reportedly after he refused to pay $5,000 fine after a tribunal ruled he had discriminated against an LGBT. So this is this is one of the human rights tribunals. These are what's what I'm looking for? The Soviet style tribunals, expertise tribunals, just commie tribunals, specialty tribunals that the courts have to show deference to because they are specialty tribunals. Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario ruled that the township of Emo, okay, that's hilarious, and its mayor, Harold McQuaker, had discriminated against an LGBTQ group under the Ontario Human Rights Code by denying its request to proclaim June as Pride Month. Borderland Pride had requested Emo. It's funny, there's a town in Ontario called Emo and another one called Swastika. No joke. They make the Pride Month declaration to request the township to fly the 2S LGBTQ plus flag, yada, yada, yada. McQuaker further found to have violated the Human Rights Code by making a, quote, discriminatory remark, end quote, during the town's council.
Read his remark that they
about the flag request, saying that there were no flag for the, quote, other side of the coin for straight people. Holy, like I was on Charlie Kirk then right before we started, and he asked me a question which might get me into trouble with Canadians. Like, do I plan on moving back? Who the hell in their, if you're not born in Canada and would you move to a place like that? And if the answer is going to be no, if you were born in Canada, do you stay there if you have the option?
It's the same thing. Like I saw some of the city council meetings, even in the States, like what they're doing they banned a flag, the American flag, in one of the council meetings. I think it was in New Jersey.
Yeah, I have it. I mean, I have it. Oh no, that's right. It was outside a fire station because I think they deemed it to be something of a political statement, and they said
Right.
we don't. It's crazy.
So I don't know that you can so readily get around it. It's, the federal level determines a bit of it, and then it goes to the provincial. But it's hard to figure out exactly who's steering the ship of some of these smaller agencies, tribunals, whatever, committees.
Let me read this. Oh, sorry. Please go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think funding has a lot to do with it. So what the federal government has done for the past 9 years is really allocated a significant amount of resources towards political causes that are, can in some ways be divisive. I don't think it's achieving the unifying goal a lot of these causes are designed to achieve. I think there's different ways to achieve unity. So that's what it's doing. The money is ultimately dividing a lot of these groups that really share a lot of fundamental values, I think, at the end of the day.
So Bill C-63 abandoned. But if they'll just bring it back up, it'll be C-64 in the next session. And I mean, unless the Conservatives get a wild majority, but I actually have to go check to see what the Conservative support or opposition to that bill is. They had a very lackluster opposition to Bill C-10 before it even got passed. Dan, I'm going to read a super chat on the CommuTube side. Speaking of communism, Cynic in Chief says, "Rest in peace, Legal Vices. He was a great man, father, and friend of many on YouTube. He knew how to enjoy life and be entertaining. He is greatly missed." Dan, there was one of the LawTube lawyers. He died of heart failure, 51 years old. I'm not much. I don't do the. I feel weird making these condolences public. I reached out to everybody I could reach out to privately and express my condolences and see if they need any help with his dogs. He was in South Korea. I know that he had dogs, and I don't know what's going to happen with the family. Died suddenly, and it's all right. Okay, we'll move on to a happier note. Here, Dovi Koto says, "Hey Viva, not to be that, but I have a cool design proposition for you. Anywhere I can send you a link to run it by you. Keep up the great work." Dovi, if you have, I'm on Twitter, but my DMs are not open. But tag me or let me know where I can. How do I do it? I can't give my email out because it goes.
You close your DMs?
I've never. They were only opened by accident when I think I got the blue, not the paid blue, and then I think it opened them. But no, then and it's not even for. I don't get really like meaningful death threats or anything like that. I was just getting people like giving a lot of information about legal situations that they're in, and like A, I can't answer it, and B, I don't even want to know these details unsolicited. So I did close it, but specifically for that, it's just like I don't want people thinking that I'm now their attorney or telling me something that I don't want them telling me because I might know something else that I don't want to know that for. Plus, if there's things that I want to know and expose, I don't want to have gotten it from an individual or not be able to talk about something because I heard it from a person who unsolicited offered that information to me. Dan, here, hold on. Let's do this here. On local side, how do I do this? My fat fingers can't bring this up. Is Pierre Poilievre the real thing or the Canadian version of a rhino? Dan, what do you think? I know you like. I mean, by the way, I have no animosity to anybody who likes him. What do you think?
He gets a lot of flack for being a rhino. I think that's not my sentiment, but I think at the end of the day, you got to get in. Like at this point, anything's better than Trudeau. I mean, except for the NDP. So yeah, is Pierre Poilievre perfect? Probably not. Does he have to, cater to, for votes that will secure him a supermajority? Probably. But at the end of the day, at this point, beggars can't be choosers. Trudeau's got to go.
All is Steelman, Pierre Poilievre. He's not Trump, period, full stop. That may or may not be a good thing, depending on what you want in politics. So the problem is that there's not the same populist conservative movement in Canada that there is in the States. There's the trucker movement, but let's just say even that represents the 600,000 people who voted for the PPC. It's by no means the same momentum and the same size as it is in America. The Conservative Party of Canada, I would say, is like the reasonable Democrats in the U.S. Pierre is very much a fair weather politician, which is both good and bad. He can be swayed by public opinion, but he doesn't seem to stand on any meaningful principles of his own belief system. Conservative Party, it's got, if you want to go identity politics, they've got, culturally diverse members. They've got sexual identity diverse members. But it's nothing like MAGA. He's nothing like Trump, and conservatives of Canada are nothing like MAGA Trump supporters in America, for good or for bad, depending on how you feel about that.
Yeah, like if you just look at the popular vote from the NDP and the Liberals, they still got a pretty good chunk. I mean, but I guess even in the States, the Democrats still got a pretty big percentage of the popular vote.
Yeah, they got. I mean, but it's so stupid. They'll vote 40. What was it at now? She's at 75 million, so she was at like 46%, 47%, and Trump was at 50. Right. No matter what. I mean, she could be a brain dead, cackling idiot, and 47% of America is going to vote for her. Flip side, they'll say he can be a convicted an adjudicated rapist, and 50% will vote for him. Oh, we'll talk about that in a second. And then let's see over here in locals. Florida Gatorman says, I think he's a rhino. He never stood up against the vax or had the balls to stand with the truckers. He stood with them for breakfast once when it was cool, and then he quickly stopped standing with them when it was no longer cool.
It was hard, it was hard for someone like that to stand with the truckers because the intelligence was being really distorted. Like you're getting information that was misleading. So it's like if you're too out there and you support the wrong people within the convo, or like it was hard to get information unless.
And again, to steelman it for Pierre's benefit, the criticism is that Trump didn't stand strongly enough with the Jan 6ers on Jan 6, or at least on Jan 7th, because at the time, the intelligence was that it was an insurrection and violence, and even Trump had to come out and denounce the violence. So, it's analogous to what Pierre had to do with the truckers, because at the time, they were, the reports were that they were pissing on war monuments, defacing Terry Fox, threatening to rape women. I mean, this is what liar Mendicino said, and so and that they were funded by the Russians. So it was very difficult for anybody without the moral fortitude to say, I'm standing with this because I know that these are lies. He came around, and then he came back around a little bit afterwards. But I appreciate it. It's similar to what Trump did with Jan 6, and now the time is for Trump to pardon all Jan 6ers.
Do one more.
Is there any chance that Canada would get rid of the human rights tribunals in the next 10 years? Zero.
Yeah, that would be very unpopular. It has a good purpose. Like it's good. It's there for people. I mean, it's slow and it's under, but it's there for basic human rights violations that have nowhere else to go. So
but that's the vicious circle. They have nowhere else to go because they pulled them from the court system. In my view, there's zero reason to have these bullshit specialty tribunals. Add more judges to the Court of Quebec or the Superior Court or your Ontario. Add more judges. Some of these people have never been judges. Some of them have never been lawyers. They're pure administrative clerical bureaucrats who are now in the role of a judge with no legal training and no judicial experience. They're part of the fabric of Canadian society. They're going nowhere ever. They're part of the Constitution. Are they not part of the charter?
I don't know about that.
I think they're part of the Charter of Rights. Not the part of the Charter of Rights. They're part of the 1982 Constitution, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to check that. Scratch that in case it's wrong. So not going anywhere. What were you going to say before that?
No, I actually have to take off. But anyhow, to the overall, the hope going forward, whether it's election resignation or prorogue.
But today's the day. I think they're in recess. When does Canadian Parliament recess?
Is it 4?
Yeah, I think today's the May. Okay, I think they're adjourning today, if I'm not mistaken. So, unfortunately, I think if we would have heard news, we would have heard it by now. But I'll keep following up on this. Who knows? The greatest Christmas gift would be elections in January or February. But
to me, it's amazing that he's gone on for this long.
It'll be a decade of terror. It's almost a decade of no. It is a decade. It's 2020. He was in 2015. It's
impressive. It's impressive what can be done when you mobilize all your MPs together to get what they did. Anyhow,
can you? But I actually say it's been 10 years of Trudeau rule in Canada. The last 4 have been minority government. So he's minority government coalesced with the NDP. Amazing, Dan. Yep. I'm going to see you sooner than later.
All right. Yep. Good stuff. Right, follow us on Twitter, on the Twitter. Lion Advocacy.
Lion Advocacy on Twitter. You are still practicing law. If people have an Ontario Canadian question, at the risk of maybe
overloading the system.
Your system. How can people reach you?
Go through, for my legal stuff, you can go through Lion Law Professional Corporation. That's also on the Twitters. You could DM me there, but don't give me any confidential information until I know that there's no conflict.
You can hear it.
Yep.
Okay.
Good stuff, man.
Go.
Yep.
Talk to you soon.
Godspeed. Take care.
Bye-bye. That's my brother, people. There was okay in here. Lutka over in Rumble says documentary on the embezzlement. I'm absolutely going to watch that, especially before. Well, I don't know that we're going to have a show on Sunday because apparently it's Christmas-ish and I'm not allowed doing it. We'll see. All right, people. I wanted to do one more thing before we head on over to YouTube. Before we abandon YouTube and head on over to Rumble. Let me see what's going on in here. They will bankrupt Canada, says Reven UPL6. Buddy 1205 says the government and CBC slander and demonize on public dole and resources to encourage lunatics to attack opponents who call out their nonsense. QED. I forget what that means, but I remember I asked before. And Sephardine Squib says advocating for lions, good stuff, is my brother. It'd be nice if Trump came out and said something against that piece of shit and using mounted police to beat up citizens, says Joe Ragu. Yeah, it's probably. I mean, what's funny is he keeps making the jokes about Trudeau being the governor of Canada, and people are flipping this shit like they don't have a sense of humor, and like they don't also appreciate that on the international scene, Canada is, it is what it is. But on the North American scheme, Canada also is what it is. It's a country with an economy smaller than that of California and a population of that of California, of one of the states of America. It's a funny joke, and everyone's got to quit getting their panties in a twist over it. What we're going to do right now, by the way, because we're going to go over the lawsuit that Trump is filing against Des Moines. Bill Brown says, what the F? Christmas is on Wednesday, not Sunday. Yes, but you have to have your Sunday night dinner. I know what Christmas is. Apparently, Hanukkah starts on the same day as Christmas this year. So let me get all the tip questions over in locals. I did. I got all the tip questions in locals. I'm going to watch that documentary. So I'm going to give everybody the link on CommyTube. Come on over to link to Rumble and come on over to locals if you're so inclined. And I'll give everyone the link to locals as well. Oh, that might have been the link to locals. The link to Rumble is in the pinned comment. And let me just read some of the chat over here. Here, locals. Oh, and there's one more. My goodness, I'm an idiot. Rumble is what I'm looking for here. I see Bill Tong is in the house. Let me bring this one up before we head on over as the segue. Get your coffee, people. 1775 coffee. /Viva. King of Biltong says need some healthy. No, hold on a second. A paid promotion. They will not. That's better. Okay. Need some healthy, high-protein snacks. Biltong is packed with B12, iron, zinc, creatine, and more. Perfect for carnivore keto diets. Available at BiltongUSA.com. Code VIVA10 for 10% off. King of Biltong also says we stream Friday and Sundays, 4 p.m., 3 p.m. Central. Shit talking whilst cooking real food. Follow our channel. Eat at Anton's and join in on the fun. And shameless self-promotion because I'm an idiot and always forget to do it. Viva Frei, people, get your merch. Let's see if the new line is in because I'm not sure if it is yet. It isn't, but you can get your shirt. Don't let friends vote Democrat in the nifty little girl shirt there, as they call them. Fight, 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 all the other good stuff. VivaFrei.com for all of your merch needs if you want to support the channel and get something cool in the process. Don't vote for an idiot, although that shirt's now outdated. It should say, congrats. Many of you did not vote for an idiot, but some of you did. All right, peeps, get your butts on over to Rumble. Abandon CommyTube. Vote with your eyes, vote with your feet, vote with your dollars, and support free speech now. The entire stream, or at least the portions that were not aired on YouTube, will be aired on YouTube later. And all streams are available also on podcast format. I think it's called Viva Frei Recovering Litigator or something like that. All right, done, updated.